Hey there folks, Recon Trooper here once again after, about 13, 14 months. Got a new video, decided to make one out of all this boredom that's been going on since, Lego Star Wars situation and all, and so I just decided for a change to make a new video instead of constantly commenting on others all the time. So, this video is nothing to do with Lego Star Wars, it's just something I decided to do. It's just a bunch of blasters that I designed on a 3D program I've got on my computer, and most of them are pretty original blasters. Two of them I'm sure people will recognize from the prequels and the Clone Wars. And so, yeah, and, I don't expect a round of applause or anything, so, if I get criticized for something, like this gun doesn't look very cool or something, whatever. Like I say, I'm not doing this to please anybody, just doing it out of boredom. So, but yeah, if you do like and enjoy what I share, then feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and drop a like as well. So, enough jibber jabber now, let's just get into it. So, the first one right off the bat, I'm sure, like I said, many will recognize from the prequels and the Clone Wars, is the DC-15A blaster rifle. And, I've always liked this weapon. It always has appealed to me ever since, I guess, Episode 2, when it first made its debut. It's just the size of it, and that it shoots blue lasers, I think Episode 2 is the first movie, actually, that they actually use large weapons and blue lasers at the same time, because the originals never had blue lasers except lightsabers, but those don't really count. And aside from, I think, Episode 4, all the other weapons were just these little things, that stormtroopers used. Or pistols like Han Solo uses. You don't see any really large blasters. And so I've always liked this one, and, it's always cool to use in games like Battlefront, like the Battlefront games, both the originals and the new reboot Battlefront 2. It's always cool to use them, and yeah, they're just, it just looks cool, and I tried to be as accurate as possible, so, I made sure it had a scope on the bottom, and I tried to make sure it had, grooves going all around the barrel there, and tried to make sure the trigger for some reason, had two curves to it, and the stock of it has to be brown. So, it of course by no means is a perfect, image of it, obviously, but, because there's obviously more details that are on it than what I did, but from what I did do, I just, it looks cool, and, the power cell, which is where all the ammo for the weapon is stored, I really couldn't find a good image that showed just how far it extended out of the weapon. So if it looks bigger, if it looks further out or not far out enough, that's just because I had to guess. So But I tried to still be accurate with that as well, making sure it was on the right side of the weapon, try to make sure it was in approximately the right spot. So that's, and you may notice also the scope on the bottom has a bit of a red lens, and that's because in the original Battlefronts, if you run as the clone trooper in a certain way, you'll even see that the scope on the bottom has a red lens, and so I was just trying to replicate that is all. It's not because I thought it would look cool with a red lens, it's just because I was trying to replicate that, and though I do admit it does look cool still. Like I said, I've always liked this gun, so, but, so yeah, and the next one you'll also probably recognize is the DC-15S blaster rifle / carbine, and once again tried to be as accurate as possible while not obviously not looking perfect like you'd hope it would, but I did my best anyway, and again tried to make sure the grooves around the barrel were there and make sure the iron sights were approximately the same shape and the same distance apart. The rings at where the barrel is, and once again also the energy cell on the side, tried to make sure it was the exact same as the DC-15A, because really it is. I mean, if you did a comparison, you wouldn't really see the difference aside from the weapons themselves. So, and I made sure the trigger still looked the same too, and the handle. And that's just, the barrel, the hole where the blaster shot comes out of, I don't know, maybe looks a little too small for some people, but I was trying to make sure that being the small counterpart to the DC-15A, it still had kind of the same barrel regardless. So if it looks small, then, it looks small, but I still think it looks cool regardless, and so those are the two that I did that everybody should know, and because again also the DC-15S is used a lot in the sequels and the Clone Wars, at least in episode 3 of the sequels anyway. You don't see it a whole lot in the episode 2, but in episode 3 you see it used more, and of course in the Clone Wars you see it used non-stop pretty much. But so yeah, and so those are the weapons I did from that people should be familiar with. And so now I will start showing weapons that I myself designed, and I should warn too, some of these weapons look like Nerf guns, and that's because they probably are. So if they look like Nerf guns, yeah, they are. Just clearing that up. And so starting with this one, the HF91. Don't ask me why I called it that. I just randomly came up with it, I don't think about what the letters mean in weapon names, honestly. I'm sure they have a meaning for some reason, but I just needed a name that was different from DC-15 or E11 or whatever. And HF91, I don't remember any weapons having an H or an F or both in it, and certainly not the number 91, so there you go. That's all I have to say about the name. Yeah, this is one this is the very first one I came up with a long time ago, actually. Funny story, I was back when the original Battlefront came out, the first one in 2004, it was still a fairly new game, and you know, the big, like I said, I like the DC-15A blaster rifle. I always liked the size of it, and so it looks, you know, it was cool to pretend to use it, you know, pretend to hold one when I'm not playing, I wasn't playing Battlefront, so, and I used a drum cymbal stand, or part of one anyway, and kind of the end part looked like it would be a cool thing for a barrel, and so I used it as the barrel, and the knob on the side I used as kind of the iron sight, and you know, I just pretended it was big, you know, and so that's when the idea came about, you know, they really should make a blaster rifle the same size as the DC-15, but it should shoot green lasers. And so that's what where this idea came from. You know, the barrel, I tried to find something that matched to the stand for the barrel, and the closest thing I could find was a Spaz 12 barrel, so that's probably why it looks like a Spaz 12 barrel to most. The only change I did was I moved the iron sight up a little bit to be more on the barrel and not behind it. And so, but yeah, and so yeah, this weapon is basically the same, meant to be the same size, like, you know, it's meant to be the equivalent to the DC-15A blaster rifle, except it shoots green lasers instead of blue, and also the power cell is on the bottom, because, you know, there's not enough weapons in Star Wars, I find, not the movies anyway, where the power cell is on the bottom, you know, like all the weapons the clone troopers use and the stormtroopers use. You know, the power cell is on the side all the time. Even the battle droid's gun, this thing is on the side, and so I wanted something that was on the bottom for a change. So that's why it's on the bottom, and yeah, so that's basically it for that. And I had to make sure also the barrel, the hole, wasn't Spaz 12 sized, because it's not meant to be a shotgun, it's meant to be a blaster rifle. So I had to shrink the hole down a bit, but also make sure that it didn't look like a really small hole in a very thick cylinder. So I had made a small groove around the hole as well. And so that's kind of what that is, and so yeah, that's the HF 91, and for a kind of a small size reference, this is what it looks like next to the DC-15A blaster. Like I said, it's meant to be the same size approximately, same length, same height. Just different, obviously different design and different laser color, but approximately the same, you know, same length and height basically. And you know, seeing them side by side, I find actually makes them look almost like brothers, so to speak. You know, they almost look, you know, they look like they should be used kind of together, you know, like one soldier uses this weapon, the other soldier uses that one, kind of thing. You know, they look like they look good together. And so, and, you know, going by the design for the HF91, I couldn't help but do also a smaller version, like a smaller counterpart, and so that's where I came up with this weapon, the HF60. Again, don't ask me about the name. I just came up with it, nothing else to it. And so, you know, I liked the barrel of the HF91, so I wanted to sort of keep it, but I definitely wanted to change the iron sight because it's not supposed to have exactly the same features as the big one, just like the DC-15S doesn't have all of the same features as the DC-15A. It has its own iron sights and its own, just design. Although it shares similarities, like the power clip, the energy pack, whatever you call it, power cell, is the same design. The trigger is the same. The handle is the same. I just made the body different, but it also looks actually pretty cool. I mean, you know, I also made sure the barrel was the same, had the same size hole in it for the laser shot, and did the same thing with the groove as well. I think I made it a bit thinner on this one, but it's also smaller, so, but, you know, and once again, here's sort of a comparison between the two guns, the DC-15S and 60. And again, they kind of look like they go together, you know, like they really look like counterparts, you know. And it'd be awesome to see them kind of actually used together in a battle, you know, just seeing these blue and green lasers flying everywhere. And so, yeah, so those are my first two things. And I also, you may have noticed, I changed the hand grip as well, just to make it slightly different from the HF91. But yeah, so moving on, this is the KE77, as I call it. And once again, it's meant to be a big rifle, and as you can see in the name, it shoots red lasers. Because, you know, I did green, you know, we have the blue, I made a green one, you know, I figured why not make a red, you know, a completely new red one as well. So, yeah, this rifle shoots red, and this time I wanted to see that's another thing, is we don't see weapons with the power cells in the stocks much in Star Wars. So for a change, I also put this one, I put the power cell in the back in the stock of the weapon, and so makes it sort of like one of those kinds of assault rifles you see in, you know, in Halo and Call of Duty. And so tried to do that, and you know, it still looks cool. You know, the barrel looks pretty good sticking out the way it does, and the iron sight, even maybe the front part is a bit too low, but otherwise it looks okay, I find. And you know, there's no problem, you know, there's no problem with the design, I find. I mean, you know, like, I was just trying not to replicate exactly the HF91 or DC-15A, but still same length, same height, kind of trying to follow that rhythm. So, and yeah, as you can see, it, you know, the barrel is silver. You know, I made sure it looked silver because it wouldn't have looked right if it was the same color as the body. And so I did all these grooves and on the side and everything. So yeah, and the stock is slightly slanted because I think I actually borrowed a Call of Duty weapon piece for this, for the stock, because I didn't want to, you know, use a halo weapon, because those things are difficult, especially when the handle is already in the stock too. I wanted the handle not to be in the stock, so, but yeah, it looks cool, you know. I think it looks cool. And once again, it wouldn't be right to leave it without a counterpart, so the next weapon is what I called the KE-18, and this is the only rifle, small blaster I did where it has a stock, and as such the handle and the, you know, the grip or the hand holder part are closer together than on the others, because I had to make sure it was the same length while still being, you know, holdable. So, you know, I still call it a rifle. You can call it an SMG. I don't care. It's, you know, just how I designed it, and I had to make sure the stock was the same because the power cell I wanted to make sure was the same. And but it still obviously is different, you know. You can see the iron sights, it's not one little thing at the front like on the KE-77. It's two little things sticking up with a space between them. And so, believe me, I tried to make the barrel also look silver, but for some reason on this one it didn't want to render that way. So what you see is what you get, I guess. But seeing them together kind of looks cool too, you know. Can kind of see the scale difference, obviously, and this is the only image where I did the large and the small together, because, you know, when you have 10 weapons, I wanted to do 5, you know, it's 5 large, 5 small. I had to make a compromise somewhere, so yeah, the red one is the only one with the, you know, the two versions showing. So on to the next one, the R57. Now you probably think it looks similar to the E11 that the stormtroopers use, and you're probably right, it does, but of course it does look different too. Tried to make sure that the scope was different, you know. I think on the E11 the larger portion of the scope is on the back, not the front. But also there's no rail thing, you know, like how those blasters have a fold out stock. So there's nothing like that on here. And so yeah, it's, you know, it's still, I tried to make it different, you know, the trigger is different, the power cell is different. I made sure it wasn't the same size or dimensions, but I wanted it to be on the right side, on the left side, sorry. But I made sure it was different, you know. I gave it these red kind of, I think I meant for them to be lights, and I made it thinner. I tried to make it a thinner power cell, but still, you know, I think it looks cool. And the way I did kind of the front of the weapon under the barrel looks pretty good too, you know. It's actually looks like a hand holder kind of thing, as opposed to where, you know, stormtroopers and clone troopers are always just holding kind of the hinge part that, you know, opens up so that they can get the stock, the folding stock out, and they're always holding that part. And not that it's a bad thing, but I didn't want that, so I wanted it to have more of a hand holder looking thing. And you can't see it, but the hole that the laser comes out from in the barrel is actually a whole lot smaller than this opening that you see at the front, but that's because, again, I was trying to do something different, and this is the idea I came up with. So it's kind of a small hole. It's kind of a small hole inside a bigger hole, I guess you could say. But also, as you saw in another thing you probably saw in the name, I made sure to put it there, is that it shoots orange lasers. And so, yeah, and and it's got a purple lens in the scope. I just did that because, kind of got inspired a bit from Halo, because in Halo a lot of the human weapons have scopes. The scopes are colored a bit. There's, I think, blue and kind of a vanilla-ish white and even green on some. So I kind of wanted the scope to have color to it. It doesn't really change the, effectiveness of it. But, so, yeah, and then there's the bigger one, the R80. I'm sorry, I'm actually going backwards here. We have the R80 here, and it's, the big version, of course. And, once again, it's got similarities to the smaller one, and the barrel is a whole lot bigger, though. And it's got a stock, obviously, and again, it shoots orange lasers, not blue, green, or red. And yeah, I just figured it needed a big barrel. And still the hole is smaller than the actual barrel, the hole that the lasers come out of. But yeah, and so the kind of the trigger guard thing looks different because for some reason the render didn't want to keep it the same color as the smaller one, so it's not entirely my fault that it does that. It's just the way the program worked, I guess. But again, I think it looks cool. It's massive size, just like the other ones. And so yeah, that's that one. And then there's the ST-52. Now, it looks like a sniper rifle, but it isn't. It is a blaster rifle. But this one is based off a Nerf gun that I have, so if it looks like one, it's because it is based off one, with a few minor tweaks, of course. And but still, it looks cool. Like the scope has a blue lens on this one, and it would shoot yellow lasers. It shoots yellow lasers. The power cell is once again on the bottom, kind of like the HF91, and the barrel is a bit silverish, and so yeah, and that's that one. And once again, do a comparison here. And you can see they're approximately, again, the same sizes, same lengths, same approximate heights, I think. Maybe a little different, but I tried. So, But yeah, and so that one, and then the last one is finally the ST-44, the small version of the ST-52. Again, based off a Nerf gun. I made sure to cut the stock off of this one and shorten the barrel. But it also shares the same, power cell and scope and the handle and trigger. And it also shoots yellow, so, there is that. And doing, showing a comparison also between that one and the R57 is what it, looks like together. And, these comparisons, honestly, like I say, they look like they go together, They really look like counterparts when you put them together like this. Very different looking, but also, they kind of match. So, but anyway, so, yeah, that's my video of my weapons, and again, this whole video was strictly out of boredom, nothing else. I mean, what else? What is there to really talk about right at this point about that ghost game called Lego Star Wars? Not much. And not until, the devs and whoever, all the heads responsible for the game get their heads out of the sand and actually see the world, as opposed to, all this dark that they can't seem to not see. So, and I'm of course still hoping this game comes out because, well, I know it's coming out, but hoping it comes out this year. But I say that all that and enthusiasm I felt back when I first heard it, I'm sure many of you probably feel the same way. I don't recognize it anymore because that was then, this is now. Very different circumstances, and to be honest, they couldn't have anticipated coronavirus, I know, but I think, what, they should have maybe waited until this Star Wars Day to announce the game, and then show it off at E3, when they were as, at the progress they are at right now, as opposed to just how they've been all this time. So, that's my 2 cents of 2 cents worth of, thought about Lego Star Wars, and I have a new series that I'm just waiting for the darn game to come out so I can start, filling the series up. So, I'm just waiting for this game. That's the only thing. And so, anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video. I know it was a long one. A lot of talking, a lot of tongue twisting in some spots. But, yeah, so, anyway, again, leave a comment and drop a like if you did enjoy it, or even leave a comment if maybe you weren't impressed. Doesn't matter to me. I mean, no publicity seeking here, just simple boredom trying to shove away. And I felt, it was time I did a new video because Lego Star Wars isn't around to do videos with, so, but anyway, this is Recon Trooper signing out now, and may the Force be with all of you, and yeah, see you whenever the next time is. Adios.